This man will not be invited on Al Jazeera anytime soon. An Israeli professor single-handedly destroys his entire anti-Israel panel, along with Mehdi Hassan. Check it out.
We have Diana Boutou, who's a Palestinian lawyer in Israel, former advisor to the PLO. Emmanuel Navon is an international relations lecturer at Tel Aviv University. Daniel Levy is a former Israeli peace negotiator, president of the US Middle East Peace Project. Diana, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about genocide, because we started the show talking about genocide. Benny very adamantly says it's absurd. There's many definitions. You're a lawyer. What do you make of that?
Look, Benny is exactly what I expect him to be, which is a genocide denier and a genocide apologist. Every human rights organization has been defining this as a genocide. We have the ICJ that has come out and said that there's plausible case for genocide, and yet we're to believe the Israelis, the only people who say that it isn't a genocide. Israel's allowed to be a colonizer.
Short side note, the ICJ actually corrected that and said they did not find any plausible case for genocide, and yet the other side continues to repeat that lie.
Allowed to do what it pleases, and that Palestinians just have to sit by idly and take it. And this is the fundamental problem with Zionism. But we, Palestinians, are the ones who feel Zionism on our bodies. We've paid for it with our lives. We've paid for it with our land. This attempt to redefine Zionism will go nowhere, because you know, and the world knows, it's a
Hold on, I'm going to bring in all the panel. Then
it's a colonial...
All right. Emmanuel, you teach international relations in Israel. Is there a recognition there that a lot of the world governments, allies of Israel, as well as the usual human rights groups, are very critical, at a minimum, of the way that Israel has prosecuted what's going on in Gaza?
Well, first of all, Diana said we're feeling Zionism. You're right, you're feeling it, because the only place in the Middle East where Arabs are free is Israel. And so the freedom that you have, Diana, is because the only country in the Middle East where there is freedom is the state of Israel, from which you benefit, and you should be thankful for it.
I'm not grateful at all.
Because the only country in the Middle East where Arabs can elect their officials, be elected, be judges at the Supreme Court, be president of a university, the only free country in the Middle East is Israel.
Daniel, do you want to respond to that?
I find it...
I love it. Oh, we're feeling Zionism. We're feeling Zionism. It's terrible. And then he says, you're right. You're feeling Zionism. You're feeling what it feels like to be in a free, democratic country. Thank you very much. You should be thanking us for that.
Staggering that the gentleman to my right is telling the Palestinian citizen of Israel how she is experiencing the reality under which she lives. It's a staggering moment for me. Now, you know, there were different strands to Zionism, okay? There was a cultural Zionism, there was a binational Zionism. This could have gone in different directions. From the perspective of 2024, 75 plus years in, the idea that this is just something benign doesn't match with the reality that has been lived. Now, I would say it's clear what this has meant for Palestinians, but I would argue it's not doing what was written on the tin for Jews either. I don't think either Israeli Jewish or global Jewish safety is best served by the actions we see day in, day out in Gaza.
Benny, would you like to respond to what you've heard from the panel?
Please. I think there's a misunderstanding here. There is a separation between Israel and the West Bank, Israel and the occupied territory, largely populated by the Palestinians and the State of Israel. In Israel itself, there is a rule of law. There is generally equality between the Jews and the Arabs, and you're misrepresenting it when you say that they are persecuted, and he's damn right in what he says. All the Arab states are dictatorships which do not allow their citizens any freedom, and Israeli Arabs enjoy most of the rights. They may be discriminated against in certain things, but they may enjoy certain rights which Jews do not have. For instance, not serving 3 years, wasting 3 years in the army, for example. Israeli Arabs don't do that.
We don't want to do
No, it's fine.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure most Palestinians are desperate to serve in the Israeli military right now.
I'm sure you're right.
Thank you for leaving us from
One should be in Pre-1967 Zionism and Israel, it was not a colonial enterprise. In the West Bank, there is a colonizing and colonial framework, which is even apartheid-like in its actual workings. But
I completely disagree with Benny Morris here, and that's why I only referred to this debate as a win and a great stance by the Israeli professor Emmanuel Navarro, because Benny Morris is a weak Jew. He's saying that Jews can't live in Judea and Samaria. They can't live in the so-called West Bank. Like, that's exactly what the settlements are. Just a bunch of Jews living in Judea and Samaria. If you look at that as apartheid, then you're really just hateful against Jews. If they can't even tolerate the presence of Jews in their lands, then we're not the apartheidists. We're not the Arab haters, so to speak. They are the ones that are Jew haters and cannot tolerate Jewish people.
in pre-1967 Israel, that was not the case. And for the first 100 years or so of Zionism, it wasn't a colonial venture. It wasn't a venture of an extension
Benny.
of an imperial. Let me just define colonialism, since you're so busy defining genocide. Imperialism and colonialism were matched together, in which an empire sent its children to dominate and take over a third world country and exploit its riches
not
and its
South
people.
Africa.
This is
My
not what
father didn't
Israel
lose
did
his land.
until 1967.
Emmanuel, do you agree with Benny that there is a colonial aspect, an apartheid-like aspect to the occupied West Bank?
No. Zionism is a national liberation movement that freed its land from Arab Muslim colonialism. How do you think Islam expanded itself from the Arab Peninsula to Indonesia, from Indonesia to Morocco? Not from the Holy Spirit. This was conquest and colonialism.
This is exactly the problem, is that he's a racist. He espouses these racist views. That's the problem with Israel. Israel is a society, a country that is based on this idea of Jewish supremacy, and anything that they do or say goes, which means, therefore, that as a Palestinian who lives in that country, who is not enjoying any benefits of so-called democracy, that they get to espouse and tell me how I
Whoa, hold on. She is on a panel criticizing Israel, talking about how Israel is this colonial state. She lives in Israel. And Israel's not a democracy, and Israel's not a free country. You're legitimately practicing free speech and criticizing the Israeli government and the Israeli people and calling Israel as a whole a colonial state, and then you complain that Israel is terrible. That is insane.
feel. They get to make statements like we are a fifth column, and they actually treat Palestinians as though they are a fifth column. It's very important, Mehdi, for people to understand that Israel came to us. We didn't immigrate to Israel. Israel's a colonial movement, and as a colonial movement, its aim is to not only get rid of Palestinians, but it's to transform the entire place, to erase and replace.
Okay, Emmanuel, I want to ask you this. Do you recognize the shifts that Benny was agreeing on at the start of this segment about what's happening inside of Israeli society?
Well, allow me to respond to what Diana just said. She's not telling the truth. What she's saying is not true. First of all, the Jewish country, I mean, there are over 190 states in the world. Most of them are nation states. It's not about supremacy. It is about national self-determination and freedom. Now, we didn't come to you. This is our land.
No, it's not.
This is a Jewish land.
The way that the state was created was
our
through
land.
the
And
ethnic
first of all, when
cleansing
we
of
came to you, it's not. I did not
including
interrupt
my
you.
family.
Diana, let him finish his point, Diana.
Okay. First of all, when you say we've been there for hundreds of years, the word Palestine, it's an invention of British colonialism. It was invented in 1920. It did not exist under the Ottoman Empire.
Again, not
so
the denier.
when this story starts, it's a colonial invention. So when you say Palestine, and you can't even pronounce it in Arabic because there's no P in Arabic, that's why we say Philistine, right?
There's no J in Hebrew.
We did not
There's no J in
conquer.
Hebrew.
All right, Emmanuel.
And then all hell broke loose. Great job by Emmanuel Navarro, an Israeli professor who wasn't scared to go on Al Jazeera and actually tell them what he thinks and actually stand up. Not like Benny Morris, well, Israel, they shouldn't do those settlements and they, should maybe dial it back and etc. Israel is a colonial state, and all this BS. No. I'm going to tell you what I think. And what I think is there's a bunch of Muslims complaining, a bunch of Muslim and Arab states complaining about Israel. And whilst they're colonizing the entire region and literally in their books talk about how Islam is going to spread throughout the entire world. And they're very open about their colonialism. Like Douglas Murray says, everything that they're accusing the Jews of, they are guilty of. Everything that they're trying to paint onto the Jewish state, that they're colonialists, that they're, it's an apartheid state. How many Jews live in Muslim countries? Where are the Jews in Muslim countries? They don't exist. And the reason why they don't exist is because Muslims made it so intolerable to live there and so dangerous for Jews to be in that region. They all pretty much were like, let's get the heck out of here. I mean, there's some cases of like 10,000 Jews here and 10,000 Jews there. But in general, we were basically expelled from all of those countries. And now they're like, Israel is not tolerating the 2 million Palestinians that live there as equal citizens that can vote. An Arab judge basically took a prime minister and put him in jail over, corruption. And then they go ahead and accuse Israel of apartheid when Israel is by far the most free and democratic and non-apartheid state in the region. For more, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Jewish Uncensored. Our main channel at Jewish Uncensored was demonetized, and therefore going to buymeacoffee.com/Jewish Uncensored, and supporting us there is more important than ever. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.